We're at the World Knowledge Forum in Seoul, and we're joined on INSEAD Knowledge today by Soraya Darabi. Soraya, you're at the World Knowledge Forum as a social media expert, and one of the things you had mentioned that we're no longer questioning whether social media is here to stay. You said it is here to stay. How do you decide which social media platforms to adopt?
When I began at the New York Times, it's true we did not have a Facebook presence. And serendipitously, a month after I began as manager of buzz marketing, Facebook announced they would allow brands to participate on their platform. And so the general manager of the New York Times at the time and our vice president of marketing very graciously said, design our Facebook page. And I did so with the director of design, Khoi Vin, at the New York Times, and began communicating as the voice of the Gray Lady on Facebook to a very young demographic of new readers and new video watchers. That was exciting for us. And after that, I really had took an approach that I still believe in to this day, which is the beta approach to social media, testing everything lightly, making sure that you understand new mediums before other people do, having a first-to-market advantage, and ultimately experimenting. If we don't create cultures of innovation internally within our organizations, then we're really limiting ourselves and the web literacy of our employees. Ultimately, what I advise companies to do is to think about social media as one big experiment.
Can you give us an example of this beta approach that you mentioned?
Absolutely. I mean, with a social media strategy team, I encouraged ABC News to get more deeply involved with platforms like Livestream and Instagram. When I'm consulting for startups, most often they understand these new technologies, but they have such a limited bandwidth because there's a team of maybe 3, 4, 5 individuals working on a product that they hope will ultimately scale. So for them, I also suggest that they spend a good portion of their day, maybe 20%, communicating about these offerings on the free social networking platforms, because social networks are also very, very beneficial to young companies who often don't have marketing budgets to experiment with things like Google ad keywords or paid media display ads. So it's really an approach that a big blue chip company, a Fortune 100 company can take, and also a young, nimble company.
You also advise companies on social media. How should companies today be thinking about their digital strategies, and how is this different from a year ago?
Well, digital strategy should not begin and end with social. It's much more holistic and macro than that. But the ROI for social media is fivefold. One is social media helps you become more innovative as a company. It helps to increase the web literacy of your employees. So I believe that big companies should take a top-down approach and allow their executives, including their CEOs and CMOs, to participate using social mediums, because if they don't set the example, very few employees will follow. But of course, more engaged audiences come from social media. That's another pillar. And money can be generated from social media if used and leveraged properly. In terms of the fifth pillar, a new demographic of users, or fans, followers, and subscribers, as I like to call them. Younger generations, older generations, it doesn't matter. Now that everyone is using social platforms, we can lasso them into our communities online and engage with them in real time like never before.
Where is social media, or perhaps more broadly digital media, going?
2 years ago, people were talking about the beginning of geolocation mobile applications, and there was quite a lot of interest in companies like Foursquare, prior to Foursquare, Looped or Gowalla, for their ability to show people information based on their physical location. But now you'll be hard-pressed to see an application emerge in the Apple Store and the BlackBerry market and Android marketplace that doesn't have some sort of component that involves location. It really is the beginning of a location-based information revolution. And at the same time, I also think with the popularity of mobile applications, we're going to see obviously more time spent receiving news and engaging in social media companies via mobile apps. And I think that we're going to be spending a lot more time paying attention to augmented reality applications, which just began surfacing in a prominent way about a year ago in marketplaces, but are now becoming day in and day out more sophisticated and more fascinating to watch than ever. Augmented reality, of course, is feeling virtually connected to something in the real world that you might not be physically in front of. And there are new applications, be it one that I love called Gold Run, that allows you to hold up your phone and to see the world in front of you as you normally would through a camera lens, but then anime characters will appear if a brand or a media company has sponsored them to appear so, and it's like a virtual game that you're living through. So through your mobile phone, you can identify what those characters are and potentially interact with them. This is something that's pretty new to the mobile landscape. More practical use for an AR app is to locate a new home. So there are now applications available in Amsterdam and elsewhere, which allow you to walk down a street and see which homes are for sale and to look into the interiors of those homes without actually having to be physically present in the living rooms. So augmented reality can mean a myriad of things, but ultimately it's helping us to be more closely connected to what's in front of us in near space.
Platforms like Facebook and Twitter have gained a really strong foothold today. Do you think they will be as popular 10 years from today? And what products or what kinds of products could possibly supersede them?
Well, Twitter grew much more rapidly than Facebook. Facebook grew much more rapidly than MySpace. Instagram is growing more rapidly than Twitter in its early days. So every new social media company that exists is growing at a radical speed that we have yet to acknowledge. And at the same time, I don't think anyone can look in a crystal ball and say what will lie in the future in 10 years because social media is still, in Web 2.0 sense, a relatively new practice. Facebook itself is really only 5 years old as a public company. So what this means is we have to be careful to understand why things dramatically grow so quickly, but at the same time be respectful of the fact that Facebook has become the yellow pages of the internet. Our identity does begin there. It is predicated there. What they did for Facebook Connect and O-authorization is incredibly relevant because porting around your datability online means that Facebook is now ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Even if Facebook, in the sense that we know it now, this online portal, this mobile application for your smartphone or for the iPad doesn't exist in its relevant form today, Facebook will be a brand in 10 years, that's for sure.
So how do you react today to an individual or an organization that does not have a Facebook account?
I probably haven't heard of them if they don't have a Facebook account. I believe that most major brands are now leveraging Facebook for informational or marketing purposes. And quite honestly, if you don't have a presence online as a brand or a journalist, you don't exist.
Soraya, thank you so much for joining us today on INSEAD Knowledge.
Thank you for having me.